Today, it's a busy city street, but 100 years ago, number 27 was a place where insurrection was planned. And early one morning, two army deserters left here to encourage a nearby barracks to join a revolt. They were part of a wide conspiracy of disgruntled army officers who chose this city to start a revolt they hoped would overthrow the corrupt government they despised. Soon they took command of the soldiers at this barracks, still used by the military today, and then headed for Luz, where Sao Paulo's public force was based, and today it houses the military police. Here the cavalry regiment was a key target, because a major there was part of the conspiracy. He's still remembered there today. Before long, the rebels had control of several hundred troops, some of whom were sent to take control of the local railway stations. But soon things started to go wrong. The local army general found out what was happening, went to Luz, and won back some of the troops to the government side, before he was arrested by the rebels. While here, in this city centre street, the rebels failed to keep control of the National Telegraph building, and within hours, the federal government in Rio knew about the revolt and had declared a state of emergency. A key rebel target was this building, which was then the palace of the governor of Sao Paulo state, and which now houses a museum of favelas. Improvised government forces were able to organise a defence and hold on. Over the next few days, there would be confused fighting around the city centre, like at this church, which was occupied by rebel forces. And here, where they used the Hotel Terminus as an observation point. Today, much higher views are possible. This bridge and the streets around it were contested by the two sides. As more army units joined the rebels and more loyal forces arrived in the city, barricades appeared in the streets. Unable to capture the governor's palace, the rebels argued about what to do, but eventually decided to try and negotiate a surrender. But when they sent a messenger to the governor's palace, they found it empty. The governor had abandoned the city centre, leaving the rebels in control. The rebels could now occupy many of their original targets, like the fire station. But they now had to manage a city with a civilian population numbering hundreds of thousands, some of whom had started looting. Working with business and political leaders who had remained in the city, the rebels tried to maintain order, and they issued their first manifesto. Government troops occupied strategic points around the city, like this high ground at Iparanga, where Brazilian independence was declared in 1822. An exhibition at a nearby metro station records that government artillery was based here. From Iparanga and many other places, the government started a relentless and indiscriminate bombardment of the city. In streets like this, buildings were extensively damaged. Industrial areas to the east of the city were fought over. The Crespi cotton factory, that had employed around 6,000 people, was badly damaged. Some of it remains to this day. Government forces advanced towards the centre and managed to recapture this military building. But the rebels in turn managed to win it back, only to lose one of their leaders, who is remembered at a nearby street. Government reinforcements continued to arrive at places like the Palace of Industries, now a museum, which displays this photo of loyal troops based nearby. As well as outnumbering the rebels, the government now received larger cannons. Civilians suffered the most. Many were killed at this theatre, which was used as a shelter and hit. While the fighting continued, one newspaper recorded daily life in the city, including the high number of civilian casualties. Hundreds of people were killed and thousands more made homeless. And thousands, perhaps as many as a third of the population, fled the city, most taking the train. The rebels appealed for volunteers and were able to bring several hundred, mostly First World War veterans, under their command. And with the help of civilians, they created new weapons, like armoured vehicles. The rebels still held areas, including Avenida Paulista, with trenches close to today's Institute Moreira Salles, which holds one of several photographic archives of the events of 1924. From the Marti Field, which is still used as an airport today, the rebels used aircraft in a failed attempt to attack Rio. The government also used planes, dropping bombs from the air and causing damage like this. In this crowded city, the government also used tanks, though with little success, as First World War veterans knew how to combat them. Commercial buildings continued to be fought over. The Antarctica brewery site made an ideal defensive position, and it took a 3-day firefight for government forces to capture it. The rebels tried to attack government positions using trains. though unsuccessfully. Despite attempts to mediate and to limit the destruction of the city, the government would only accept unconditional surrender. So after 23 days of combat, the rebels decided to leave, and their undefeated army left by train. The next day, government forces found out, and the state governor returned to his palace and to a devastated city.